Hi, I'm Greg Dell with attorneys Dell and Schaefer, and today I'm joined by attorney Rachel Alters, and we're going to discuss New York Life disability insurance common denial reasons. And Rachel, New York Life is one of the top 5 largest disability insurance companies, especially after they acquired Cigna long-term disability in 2020. The transition should be done in 2021. With COVID, it got delayed a little bit, but it's basically going to be everything the same. It's just Cigna people wearing New York Life clothes now and getting paid by New York Life.
Right.
So getting right into it, with a long-term disability claim that's been denied by New York Life, what's the most common reasons? And we'll probably hit on 4 or 5 of them in this video, but what's the number one reason that comes to your mind?
The number one reason I see New York Life denials is usually that the medical records, according to their own peer-reviewed physicians, aren't supportive of the disability in such a way that it doesn't support their inability to do their material substantial duties of their job. So what they'll do is they'll say, well, yes, you have this diagnosis, but our doctors have reviewed the medical records. We disagree with your treating doctors. We think that you can do the material substantial duties of your job, and that the restrictions and limitations your own doctor is giving you aren't supported by the medical records. That's the main reason I see for denial of claims.
And how does New York Life go about taking the position to say, we don't agree that the medical records are supporting your disabling condition?
Well, what they do usually is they hire their own peer review physicians, whether they're in-house or they hire somebody that often reviews records for New York Life, and they review the medical records, and then they write a peer review report where they'll say, this is what the records show, even though this doctor says that you're unable to sit for long periods, you're unable to stand, you're unable to lift. We disagree. We think that you're capable of doing a lot more than what your doctor's claiming, because we've looked at your MRI reports, we've looked at your x-rays. We don't think that your condition is as severe as you claim it is, so therefore we're going to disagree with your doctors. And they write a whole report. Then they'll submit the peer review report to New York Life, and then New York Life relies on that and puts the language of the peer review physician into their denial letters and says, our peer review physicians think that you could do your job, so we're denying your case. And that happens a lot. So it's our job to then go in and work with the treating doctors to refute these opinions.
Okay. The second most common reason for a New York Life disability denial, I believe, is a change of definition. Can you explain what that is, when that happens, and why claims get denied at that stage?
Sure. Most policies, New York Life policies, have a 24-month ONOC definition of disability, which means for 24 months, the definition is whether you can do your own job as it's defined in the national economy. And then after 24 months, the definition changes to, can you do any gainful occupation that you're reasonably educated to perform? And it's a whole different set of rules. So it depends on what your job is. If you have a very physical job, such as if you're working in a factory, or you're working somewhere where you have to lift heavy objects and be on your feet a lot, then after 24 months, they reevaluate your claim to look at whether you can do a job sitting at a desk 40 hours a week. And if their doctors determine that, well, yeah, maybe you couldn't lift more than 50 pounds before, now it's, can you sit at a desk at a computer and review records or answer phone calls, depending on what their experts determine you can do. And it's very hard to get approved under that situation unless you're working with your doctors specifically to make sure that they're changing the way they're writing their medical records to support your inability to do sedentary work.
When should a person start preparing for that change of definition from own occupation to any occupation?
I usually tell my clients, probably after the first year, to start preparing their doctors that, hey, my definition of disability is going to change in about 12 months. So I needed to shift the focus on whether I'm able to sit at a desk, because the first 24 months, if you're trying to show that you can't lift heavy objects, you can't stand very long, you can't climb ladders or whatever it is that you have to do for your job, then if it's not continuous in the medical records where it states, but he or she also can't sit for long periods, can't do computer work, has pain in his neck, because he can't stare at a screen for very long. If all of that's not included in the records and just suddenly shows up after 24 months, it's harder to get the insurance companies to accept it.
Okay. The third most common reason that we see for disability denial is the use of video surveillance by New York Life. Explain how they use video surveillance and to deny a claim and what they're doing when they hire someone to do video surveillance.
Absolutely. So usually when you first apply for disability benefits, you'll fill out claim forms, and the claim forms will ask you a bunch of questions about what your daily activities are, what your hobbies are, what you can and can't do, and then what your restrictions and limitations are. You fill those out yourself, and then your doctor will also verify how long you can sit, stand, squat, all that stuff. So the insurance company already has those limitations. So what they do is they try and get you on video. They hire a private investigator to follow you, whether it's for 2 days. Sometimes I've seen them to follow people for up to 2 weeks, and depending on how much surveillance they want to get on you. And they're trying to catch you doing things that you claimed you couldn't do. So if you told them, I never ever can sit for longer than 2 hours at a time, and then they see you driving a car for 3 hours, or you went to a movie and had no problem sitting there for 2.5 hours, or they see you going to a grocery store and lifting a case of water where you said you can't lift more than 3 to 5 pounds at a time. So they're trying to catch you doing things that you claim you can't do. And once they do that, they will then usually set up a field interview, ask you questions about whether you actually did these things. And then if you say, well, no, I can't do that, they'll sometimes put the videotape on and just catch you right in the act and say, well, isn't this you? And then they deny the claim because they claim, you're doing things that you clearly claimed you couldn't do. And obviously, if you could do those things, you could go back to work.
What is your opinion as to when they most commonly run video surveillance on a claimant?
Usually when they're about to deny a claim, so the change of definition, that's a time when they do that, or even during an appeals process after they've denied it and you're in an appeals process and we're fighting to try and get you back on claim, they'll often follow somebody with surveillance. So it depends on, and they can do it anytime.
Right. Okay, the fourth reason I want you to discuss is New York Life's review of a claimant's social media profile. How do they use that against the claimant?
And that's something that I tell my clients all the time. And from the inception of the case, I say, please, I said, I don't know what type of social media you have. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, even LinkedIn, any social media, you have to be very careful what you're posting. And I usually ask them not to post anything and make sure they're not tagged in pictures, because what the insurance carrier does is they will take that stuff out of context. So if you're posting a picture that you're out to dinner with your friends, you're having fun, you're smiling, you're laughing, you're at the beach, whatever it may be, they take those things out of context and say, well, you've told us that you're sleeping all day long, you're taking 4 naps a day, you can't, leave the house, you're exhausted, you have migraines 4 times a day. So how is it that on these days, and they will literally put all of this in a surveillance report, how is it on, these days, all these days in a row, you seem to be out to dinner, you're going to parties, you're on vacation, you're skiing. So I tell people, listen, you don't have to be locked in your house,
right,
but don't advertise what you're doing, in your social time.
And then what people need to realize is that many of your clients will be like, oh, that's no problem, I don't have social media. But your wife does, your husband does,
Right.
your kids do, the friends that you went away with for 2 days or whatever, and they took pictures, and there's this thing called tagging. And why does that become a problem, and how does New York Life find that?
Yeah, because if you're tagged in a picture, whether it's say on Facebook, if somebody posts a picture and you're in it and they tag you, then all the insurance carrier has to do is look you up and they'll find that picture. So what I tell my clients is it's really important not only to tell your family members, but your friends, please do not tag me in any social media pictures. If I'm with you, it's very important. You don't have to tell them why. If you're a private person, just say, I really just don't want to be tagged in any social media. And if you see that you are tagged in a picture, ask them to remove it. It's really simple.
Right. Okay, and the fifth and final reason, although there's many reasons, but I think the most common is talk about this peer-to-peer phone call between like an in-house New York Life doctor and the treating doctor.
These happen all the time. So, well, normally how it happens is the the peer review doctor for New York Life will review the medical records. Then they're going to place a call to the treating physician to try and have a phone call. I would say 80% of the time, the treating physician doesn't know this phone call is happening, so they don't answer the phone call, they don't return the call, because New York Life doesn't bother to tell either the claimant or the attorney representing the claimant that this is happening. So what happens is the call doesn't happen, and then they use it against you and say, well, we called your physician 4 times, they never answered. Or they call the wrong number. I can't tell you how many times they'll say, it's in the denial letter that the physician was called, and the physician says, I never received such a call. So they're either calling wrong numbers, but when they do end up getting hold of the physician, a lot of times they'll corner them. They will give them leading questions and try and corner them into saying, don't you think that your patient could sit down and do a job 40 hours a week if they're given lots of breaks? They're able to get up from their desk, or they can elevate their feet, whatever it is. Don't you believe that they could do a 40-hour-week job? And sometimes if these treating doctors aren't coached and warned about these conversations, they will say, oh yeah, well maybe that could happen, or possibly they could go back to work, but when in fact they really can't. And so it's really important for the clients to tell their doctors, hey, this phone call could happen, and to have an attorney speak with the doctors possibly in advance to prepare them for these calls so that they know what kind of questions they're going to try and trick them into answering. And this can make or break a claim, because once a doctor says, either in writing or in a phone call, that their patient can go back to work, that's usually the key for the way that New York Life will go ahead and deny the claim. So it happens all the time.
So the tips here are a few things. Number one is that if you're a claimant, you should always tell your treating doctor that, look, the disability insurance company could call you. Please reach out to me first, get my permission to speak with them, let me kind of brief you on what's going on.
Exactly.
2, when that claimant does speak to their doctor, explain to them that this is either an own occupation definition of disability. This is not activities of daily living. This is not, can I walk, can I sit, stand, go to the store, walk the dog. This is, can I do my job 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, reliably show up. So they need to understand that. The other tip is to suggest to the treating doctor, don't talk to them on the phone. Tell them to please submit any questions they have in writing so that the doctor can respond in writing. As a claimant, tell your doctor, I'll pay you to respond to these questions because I know it's going to take you some time. And that's a way to alleviate any kind of miscommunication. I know when we're representing claimants, we tell the carrier, please have your doctor call us. We'll coordinate a conference if you need one. If you have questions, send it to us. We'll make sure everything gets done for you. So, but again, and these doctors, they don't understand that it's a disability policy. They answer questions, and then the claimant gets screwed, denied, and then you have to clean up a big mess, which usually we can overcome, but it can be avoided.
Right.
So thank you for going through. We talked about 5 different most common reasons for a New York Life long-term disability denial. If you're a claimant with a New York Life long-term disability policy, we encourage you to contact either myself or Rachel for a free initial consultation. It's very simple. We'll just ask you to send us a copy of your disability policy, a copy of your denial letter if you've been denied. We'll immediately let you know if we can help you. We represent claimants all over the country, so no matter where you live, we're available to assist you. We also have some great information available on our website where we encourage you to search, look at resolved cases, look at reviews about New York Life, look at case summaries that we've written from what we've handled, as well as other lawsuits that have been filed around the country, because we're always tracking New York Life for everything, because we need to be aware as long-term disability lawyers, and we also need to be able to educate claimants around the country. The bottom line with obtaining all this information that we have on our website and learning more about New York Life is that you're going to be better educated, and the better educated you are, the better chance you're going to have to protect your long-term disability benefits. So should you need help with your claim, we'll always be here for you, and we look forward to speaking with you in the future.